Hi, everyone. This is John Khosravi. We have a great interview today lined up with Giselle Carson. Giselle Carson is a woman who's done all sorts of different things and has just great experience with immigration law, writing books, athletic prowess, and just living without fear to live a life, living all over the place, different careers to settle and become a great immigration attorney. So let's just get started and hear from her. Giselle, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, John. And I tell you, I have followed your career and podcast for a little while now.
Thank you.
And congratulations for what you have accomplished, and actually for bringing this podcast to the community, to the legal community. I have learned from you as you develop, your podcast, you interview people like me, and also when you share your knowledge about case law and the trends. So. Thank you. I'm honored to be here talking to you, and those that listen. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Now, Giselle was a listener, and she contacted me, and we got to know each other, and just learning about her background, I said, well, we need to have you on the podcast because I think everyone's going to be interested in knowing more about you and the things you've accomplished. So, Giselle, why don't you start? So, what is your background? Where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I am a two-time immigrant, and that means I was born in Cuba. And as probably many immigration attorneys to some degree, was looking for a better life and better future for my parents were, in fact, because at the time I didn't know we were leaving Cuba not to come back. But we were I was so brainwashed at that time that my parents never told me that we were not coming back. So left Cuba and then landed in Canada. And I started a new life there, and
how did that go
adapt
from Cuba to Canada? What kind of transportation did you use?
Yeah, so we were going. So in Cuba, in the Hispanic cultures, I guess we celebrate this sweet 15th, and not the 16th. So I was 15th at the time, and my parents actually, created this trip to Europe for me to celebrate my 15th birthday. So we were actually in a plane. We were on a plane to Europe. And the plane, it was a small plane at that time. And so it had to refuel before it crossed the Atlantic. So we landed in Canada, in Montreal. And my parents went to an officer at the airport, a Canadian officer, like a CDP officer would be here, and requested asylum. So I entered Canada as an asylee. So I've lived the immigration, we're watching this in the news as we speak.
Yeah.
The difficulties of all of this and the feelings and the families being separated. And, thankfully in my case, I'm the only daughter and the only child. But I could have had a brother or a sister left behind in Cuba because it's very, very difficult to have a whole family live together at that time. But again, thankfully, we landed in Canada. My parents, and you talk about fear, my parents were brave. They were very brave. I was not at that time to say, you know what, we want to stay. And they did. And so it was, thankfully, too, it was summer. And not the middle of a snowstorm, which I learned to appreciate later on.
Now, your practice, you're currently on the East Coast, is that correct?
I am. So what happened too, and I said two-time immigrant because after I settled in Canada and got a bachelor's degree and whatnot, and then decided, Canada is awesome, but Florida is better. And my husband was flexible enough and fearless enough that said, yeah, okay, I can start a new life with you in Florida. So we moved again. And so Cuba to Canada, Canada to the United States, and gone through the immigration process successfully in both countries. Now I've been a U.S. citizen for many years. But you always remember, how difficult the process is and the challenges.
You went through the whole employment-based process. So from TN to H-1B, I believe, to PERM, and did that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm doing green card. And then 5 years later, apply for naturalization. So,
Oh, that's great. When you have a
yeah.
consultation, you tell a client, "Listen, I've done all this before myself." They feel really comfortable.
Well, that gives you some credibility,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
And because when you got your TN, you weren't an attorney, you're actually a physical
that's
therapist, right?
correct. Yeah, that is correct. So
And
my, mhm,
how did that
yeah.
career change happen from physical therapist to attorney?
Uh, so I get that question asked a lot, and it wasn't as rough as it sounds. So being a physical therapist, obviously, I read medical records, wrote medical in the medical
Hmm.
records, treated patients, about disease, and so the firms that I started when I decided to go to law school, as a therapist, I was it's a service profession, just like law is.
Hmm.
We're providing clients a service and set goals and hope that they're going to be better when you leave them than when they came to you, right?
Hmm.
So it wasn't so that the concept is the same. I just felt that I could do more as a lawyer, that I could do as a physical therapist. Particularly, again, immigration has been a passion of mine. It's been a part of my life. I would never forget the immigration lawyer that came to me to my naturalization interview.
Hmm.
And while I was sitting there and I saw other lawyers, there were some things that happen in your life and you kind of put in the back of your mind and you kind of say, one day I want to do that.
Yeah.
And it was weird because when I decided to go to law school, also that thought, that image also was in my mind, that this is something that I want to do. I want to be able to be that person sitting in that immigration office helping a client achieve their dreams. And here I am.
You
That's
know,
kind of what I'm doing today.
what I really like about you is you don't mind taking on hard things. So you already had a career, and you lived in another country. You decided to move to a whole new country and a whole new career, and and go to law school, which is like it seems like on this side, having gone through law school, I'm like, oh my God, having to do the bar again. I don't think I'll be able to do that. But you also are athletically, you take on big challenges as well. You've run Ironman contests, and they should call it Iron People maybe to make it broad, and marathons. How do you deal with like the mental aspects of taking on such big tasks? Is it just natural for you, or do you have some sort of system to know that you're going to do such a big thing, like running a marathon, and how to overcome psychologically? Because probably, I mean, everyone technically and physically do it, but I think there's a mental block for people to think like we're going to run, I don't know, 20 some miles. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So no, it's not easy, and it does not come naturally either.
Hmm.
And literally, this has been a post maybe 30s. I really started getting more into endurance, endurance training and endurance sports after my 30s. In Cuba, as a woman, sports wasn't necessarily that encouraged.
Hmm.
So it wasn't part of my life there. I was always active, but nothing like, finishing an Ironman.
Yeah.
And then went to, so my bachelor's is in physical therapy. So physical activity and health and being healthy, it's obviously an interest of mine and also a passion.
Hmm.
So I started really running when I was going to when I was in PT school. My husband back then, fiance, boyfriend, was a runner, and I started running with him, and that kind of that I continued that way. But we all have ups and downs, and then went to law school, and really that's when the passion really rekindled, because I was looking for something else that, I mean, we as you know, we can work forever, we can
Yeah.
study forever, there's no end to it. And so I needed to find something that was an outlet, that what I could just not carry my books with me, literally.
No, I really like that
And
because so much of the outlet that they teach you in law school is to have a drink and like go to happy hour, which is for networking is
yeah,
good and not to say drinking is bad, but it's so much better to have an outlet that's physically active than to do like the typical lawyer activities after work to de-stress. So
yeah.
you started running there, and when was the first time you did? Was it an Ironman or a marathon? Which was the first that you did?
So the first one was a marathon, and the story literally when I ran my first 10 miles, which is not even half a marathon. I was in heaven. I would always remember that those 10 miles because it was such a crucial point for me. So, and I'm saying this for people, there may be listeners that are saying, "Oh my gosh, I would love to run a marathon, but I don't even know where to start." And I would say, don't even think about a marathon. Just think about doing a 5K. Just think about doing a 10K.
Hmm.
Just do a half. And it's just like anything else. Once you cross that finish line, the first time, then the second time is easier. The third is easier. So a friend of mine, awesome runner, marathoner, she ran Boston, gosh, I want to say 2000.
Hmm.
And she came back and said to me, Giselle, this is like right up your alley. You have to train and run the Boston Marathon. And I looked at her and I was like, are you crazy? Not just run a marathon, run the Boston Marathon. And it was like, but again, that stayed in my mind. And I kind of thought, you know what? I have nothing to lose, really. So if I make it, I make it. If I don't make it, I don't make it. And I trained and I did. I ran my first marathon was the Jacksonville Marathon. I lived in Jacksonville. It is a flat course, relative, and
Hmm.
it's in December, so the weather, the stars were really aligned for
Yeah.
me to run it well and qualify. So I qualified with my first marathon. I was very, very happy. And so my first marathon was Jack's, and the second one was Boston. And then once you get on that train, it's like there's no looking back.
Yeah, but I've seen from marathon runners, it becomes just an almost an addiction. You're like, okay, what's the next one? What's the next location? People go internationally, and it just becomes kind of a tourist kind of thing to do.
It is, and you mentioned the seven continents and the six world majors, and really that's what it is. You just kind of go, okay, well, what's next, and what can I do with this that is fun? And I would have not gone to Tokyo, probably would have not gone to Berlin or London, to run marathons, and you get to see the city and experience the people in such a different way, and I
Yeah,
am
that's too
so
cool.
so
Yeah,
grateful.
exactly. You get to see the city and not in a cab going from like tourist attraction to tourist. You get to really see like when you run. Because I ran for a period of time and then here in West LA, and when I would run, all of a sudden I noticed like the whole city that I would drive to and not pay attention, like all these stores that are around me that I never saw before, and I'm like, wow, like there's this whole world that I don't see because I'm going too fast in the car.
Yeah.
The most I got is 10 miles, but it was fun while I did it. One issue I had is when I run, my metabolism goes crazy, and like I just need to eat all day, and I can't physically like have the time or yeah, to get to eat so much. That's why I can't run because I lose weight so rapidly when I run. Do you have this podcast is going towards athletics that are immigration law, but do you have that problem too? How do you sustain yourself calorie wise to be able to run these marathons?
Well, so I wish I had your problem that I would lose weight so quickly. That's not a problem for me.
Okay.
In fact, I actually have the opposite problem to some degree. It's a tough balance out there. So two things that you've mentioned that are so close to my heart, and hopefully some other listeners also are going, yeah, I'm there with you. So you mentioned, attorneys many times don't have an outlet, and the outlet is the happy hours and drinking and networking. That it's awesome, but it doesn't contribute to your health.
Yeah, long
Uh,
term, it's not good.
right. So how do you balance that? And I'm trying to actually do networking walks right
That's
now.
awesome.
And yeah,
Yeah.
some people take me up on it, some don't, but the ones that do are like, wow, let's do this again. So that's also kind of how I'm trying to incorporate, the physical activity and networking, to some degree. And then the other thing that you mentioned is the eating and the marathoning and all that. So yeah, when you're training for a marathon, or say, a marathon is 26.2 miles, an Ironman is 140.6.
Oh
I eat a lot.
wow.
but your system gets used to that, you know?
Hmm.
And as you know, you look at football players and other top athletes that once they stop competing, they gain weight because you don't, you get your body gets used to, and you think that, oh yeah, I know, no big deal. But no, it's really you kind of I do have to be careful as
Hmm.
to what I eat and what not after, once I'm done, because my body's craving it. But but I kind of know, you just cannot eat 300, 300 calories every day. It's just
Yeah.
I'm small, and yeah. So it's a little challenge there.
One thing you mentioned is the walking. I think that's such a great idea. All the greats in history, the people whose names we know,
Mhm.
would take
Yeah.
walks every day. So
Yeah.
I do that. In the last 6 months, I haven't been able to with the baby and everything, but it gives you great ideas when you walk. And if
Mhm.
people would take me up on it, I would love to just have walking sessions. I think that's actually a cool thing to start within the community, of just going for networking like walks. Because you
Yeah.
get to talk and flow, you get to know people and see stuff, and it's such a wonderful thing. I'm glad you mentioned that's such a cool thing to do. Have you been able to get people to take you up on it, or they kind of like say, "Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea," and then disappear?
No, I have at least once a week. I have a networking walk now.
Awesome.
So yeah, and it takes some. I've tried to do groups, and that one I have not succeeded yet.
Hmm.
So I'll let you know when I get there. For now, it's just been individuals, but hey,
It
I
may
take
be
it.
the smaller it is, the smaller it is, it may be better because it's more intimate.
Right, it's
And
one
because
or
if it's
more.
like 10 people, then like I guess you go in small groups and like rotate and talk. Either way, just walking is good. But kind of bring it back to immigration. So you finished law school. Did you go straight into immigration law, or did you practice in other areas first?
Yeah, no, good question. So, remember I said that, the transition, and I had my physical therapy degree. So the firm that I work for now, and I started at, I've been here since I graduated, which is kind of unusual, but the firm has really allowed me to develop the immigration practice. But they have a very strong medical malpractice. So it's a boutique firm that has litigation, corporate, transactional work, and a mix. But we're not a big firm. We're a local firm with about 19 attorneys, 18 attorneys now.
Yeah.
So they had the need for someone with the medical background that was also wanted to do litigation.
Hmm.
So I thought, perfect. That's, this it is a firm with a great reputation, good attorneys that could help me learn from the ground up. And but as I was taking the positions and going to hospitals, which the firm represents, I started to take the positions of physicians that were from India and nurses that were from the Philippines.
Hmm.
And I thought, oh my goodness. So here are already, our clients of the firm, that somebody is helping them achieve their immigration goals. So I started exploring. And when I started exploring, I learned that many of those clients were using firms out of Miami, Atlanta, Seattle, all over the place,
Hmm.
because they didn't think they had a local immigration firm that they could use to do the immigration work. So I thought, oh my goodness, no, we can certainly change that. And I joined AILA. I've taken billions of AILA, as you have, and we all have. If we want to
Yeah.
have a good practice, that's the Bible right there. So
Hmm.
I did many of those, went to many AILA conferences, spoke at AILA conferences. I still do. And that's how the practice developed. And so right now, that's all I do. I do business immigration um, exclusively. I don't do asylum. I do removal. I think even immigration is so complex these days, that our niche is business, and that's where
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, just knowing the ins and outs of the perm process and what
Hmm.
words to use, not to use, it's hard enough. I sat in on a crimmigration seminar like a couple months ago. I was at a conference speaking. I sat in on the one before, and they were just going on all these things. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to touch any crimmigration case because unless I'm sitting here thinking about this all day, I'm gonna maybe mess up and ruin someone's life. So you focus on business immigration, and you've actually written a book called Beyond H-1B. Now, the great thing about this book is it's I think you wrote it towards just the general population that are interested in business-based, immigration. But what I've
Right.
found is these kind of books, especially yours, is great for new attorneys because it's a recap of all the things you need to know. So after reading your book, they could do a consultation and know the whole the whole full circle of what options are available. Can you talk about what the book's about and then just what got you to write it and the whole process?
Sure, sure. So after this is well, it's funny to me anyway. It may sound a little crazy, but after I finished one of those Ironmans, which it consumes your, it's a second career really
Hmm.
when you're training for one of them. So after I finished one of them, and then you have this euphoria and super energy that you think you're superwoman after you cross that finish line, and you have all this energy, and I was like, okay. So what is the next thing that I really, really have wanted to do that I haven't done yet? And you hear many people say, I want to write a book. And oh my gosh, we like to write a book about that. And I was one of those.
Hmm.
So I decided, you know what? This is the year. I am just going to write this book. And primarily because, as an attorney, we get all these questions from the clients and just exactly like you said it, the way I wrote it, it was, I give it, all my clients have my book.
Hmm.
And they do read it. And it's funny when they call me, yeah, I read on the book, da 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 da. I just had a follow-up question about that. And I was like, yes, I've achieved the goal. Because that was the intent. The intent was, here's a resource that I've put together. It's not super big. It's practical advice, and they use it, and it's based on a lot of the questions that they have asked me. Now, again, many people want to write a book, and it is. I have to tell you three things that I learned many things, but the few tips that I can summarize and say. Um, Deciding to write the book and writing it is hard.
Hmm.
And then you get past that, and then you start editing, and editing is super hard.
Yeah.
And because there's a point where you just like, I just cannot read that page anymore. I just can't. And then when you think that you've done the hardest thing,
Hmm.
then the next thing is, where do I cut off? I just I just have to have a deadline,
Yeah.
because there, as attorneys, we're always, well, in life, we always try to do better. So, oh, what if I included that? Oh, what if I included that? Oh, what if they don't know about this? And there was just no end, John. It was just like, so I just had to say to myself, you know what? End of the year it is, and I'm done. I just can, and I'm glad I did, because if I were to do it all over again, I probably would do a smaller book. And again, it's not a big book,
Hmm.
but it's a lot of work. It's really a lot of work. So, but it's so awesome to say, yeah, I wrote a book.
Yeah.
It's so awesome to give it to your clients. I mean, it's better than a business card for
Really.
sure.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful marketing tool for, to give you credibility as to what do we do and why should we hire you.
Hmm.
So, I mean, for the listeners, if they're thinking of doing this, I would say even an ebook, it's a great credibility booster. And most of us have enough content out there that you can put an ebook together and use that as a tool.
That's great advice, especially just drawing the deadline. I know a couple years ago I wrote a book on marriage-based cases that I was going to give to clients. It'd probably be 100 pages. It's now 450 pages,
Yeah.
and now I'm like, okay, it's going to be for attorneys because it got way too detailed. And then I'm like,
Hmm.
should I cite statutes for everything, or should I go into nuances of military marriages, this and that? And so it's been like almost 3 years now, and I've written the book, majority edited, but I just like every time I read it, first of all, like I'm annoyed of reading the same page over again, and then I want to tweak stuff constantly,
Yeah.
and it's just become like a nightmare. So just sitting there, like a thing that's ready, but that you just got to publish it. Somewhat, I'm worried about from things change a lot, or like some of their attorney reads it and be like, this person's part's missing. But it's a general book. It's not
Right.
intended for someone to like do everything. It's like Kurzban. Kurzban. I found errors in Kurzban's book. I wanted to like like on the I-90 renewal, there's a part where there's an error in it. For a couple of years now, they haven't corrected. But it is what it is. You know, you do your best, and it's not the end all be all. But your book is thorough, and that's the thing I like about it. Now, how could people access your book? Where could they find it?
So it's on Amazon. It's available on hard copy, and it's available on Kindle. So
How
yeah.
did you go about the process of publishing? So you edited
Mhm.
yourself. Did you self-publish, or was there a company that published it?
Yeah, no, I definitely self-publish, and it's probably in that just finding a publisher is another job in itself, and I
Yeah.
really didn't have time. And again, I didn't write the book with the intent of, and for the listeners too, sometimes how many times, oh, when I published that, I was like, oh wow, you're gonna make a lot of money with the book, and I'm like, no, in
Yeah.
this day and age, unless you're a Tim Ferriss or
Yeah.
somebody, you don't make a lot of money with any books by the amount of work that goes into it, as you know.
Hmm.
It's more of, this is something I wanted to do. It's an awesome thing to do, and it's so I had an outline of what I wanted to do. I wrote a chapter at a time, and thankfully I moved on, and I talked to a lot of people that had done a book, or were working on a book, so we share ideas and tips. And one of the first things that I was told is, write your H-1B chapter, move on to the TN, and move on to the O, and
Hmm.
don't go back until you're done where you want it, because otherwise you'll never get out of the H-1B chapter. And that was really, and I'm so glad that I kind of follow that advice. And then, so I used Create Space, which is it's an Amazon affiliate company, and they were terrific. They're basically created to help self writers get their books out. And they help me with the editing. I pay someone to read the whole book, and make edits and suggestions.
Was Creative Space the Amazon site? Did they do the editing, or is there a separate editing company?
No, they all do it. So you buy,
Okay.
is yeah, they have packages, they have bundles of things that you can buy. So I purchased their cover,
Sure.
because I didn't know where to go to get the cover. So I purchased that. I purchased various pieces of what they had to offer, but I tell you, the one that I'm happy with everything that I purchased,
Hmm.
but the editing piece, it was like essential, because I really could not read the book anymore. And I needed another set of eyes. And actually, a set of eyes that was not a lawyer.
Yeah.
That was more that's what they do. They edit books. So it was, and again, certainly like anything new, it's, you learn working through them and their process. But it was one of the things that helped me actually finish the
I'm
book.
glad you mentioned that because editing was an issue, and I thought I had to go find somebody who I could trust. But if Amazon has people, and Amazon's, they're pretty good about stuff. A one-stop
Yeah.
shop makes it great. That's wonderful to know that they could do that, especially after you're tired of reading your own book so many
Oh
times.
yeah, yeah. No,
So
and
it
or
yeah.
asking your friends to read it for you, and they also get tired of it. So,
What was I gonna say? So the book as you said, it's a business card. It gives you a lot of legitimacy. One is that the internal appreciation that you accomplished something. It's kind of like the marathons and Ironman. Like you did something in your life that very few people do. There's a big satisfaction and confidence booster in that. But also as a business card, can't get any better than that. You're like, listen, I know what I'm doing. I wrote the book on it, so it's great. Now, so your practice focused on business. What have been the trends that you're experiencing? What are post? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that actually were hassle during Obama's time too. L1s weren't any easier during Obama than they are during Trump. But what are the shifts you've been seeing in your cases, the RFEs, and just the headaches that you've noticed on various types of cases in the last 6 months or a year?
so one of the things that, actually, another tip maybe for you, or for the listeners, as you know, Ayla has a lot of resources out there, and one of the things that I have been using, whenever I get a client that says, and really some of the issues are self created, which is sad. They just kind of think that they can wait until the last minute. I'm sure you have those clients that,
Yeah.
yeah, right. They come to you and they send you the important email, and I need to talk to you tomorrow. And that, by the way, the case needs to be filed tomorrow. And you kind of, thankfully, I don't have many of those clients. Otherwise, I would be running a lot of marathons to get a lot of the stress out of me.
No sleep.
But Right. But they don't realize the delays in processing times, and you have no control really over that. Even if they pay premium processing, then you get the R fee because USCIS wants to get it out of their desk.
Yeah.
And almost without fail, on day 13 of the adjudication, or 14th, you get the RFE. I almost know if by day 10th or 11th I have not gotten an approval, that an RFE is coming,
Yeah.
because they just wait until the last, and so that's a trend, and it's a bad trend.
Yeah.
But what I was going with, the ALA, they have put out, Betsy Lawrence has a video, and it's about 10-15 minute video, The Invisible Wall.
Hmm.
And I have referenced that video and sent it to clients, or potential new clients. Now, probably I send it out at least once a week,
Hmm.
to with a little blurb, basically saying, as you're probably aware, immigration has changed and is changing, and there's processing delays, and I have a little thing that goes with the video. And please, I encourage you to watch this video, The Invisible Wall, so that you are aware of some of these changes. And now it's not coming from me. Now it's coming from someone else that also has a lot of credibility. And then I get the emails back saying, "Oh, thank you. I didn't realize that." And then the conversation shifts,
Hmm.
because they realize that, whatever they had us in mind is not necessarily, it cannot be accomplished overnight. It
Yeah.
cannot be accomplished as fast as they want to. And they're going to have to kind of slow down, and let you help them achieve their goals. And it may not be what they think is so easy, or heard their friends said it was so easy.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, The,
Um,
the the bittersweet about Trump is now people understand like that. And these have always been problems, but it's even worse with under President Trump. But because people know how harsh he is towards immigration, it makes it easier for them to believe you that
yeah.
prepare them for the RFEs and prepare them for the delays. Like I have consular processing cases for non-immigrant visas, and it takes them weeks sometimes or longer to just approve a basic visa. And so there's administrative processing issues. There's consulate mess up and ask for documents they don't need. I was going to say a case example, probably better I don't mention, but just things that should be easy aren't, and so. In the initial consultation, I spent half of it just being kind of negative in the sense I'm like, be prepared that this is going to be not easy. We're going to have hassle, and if it gets faster and works out well, then thank God it
Kudos.
worked out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you prepare people for the headache of immigration. It's just a difficult process. There's no way around that. It's a mess.
I
Yeah.
was prepping someone, and it just, I mean, following up, I'm just totally agreeing with you. I was prepping someone for a counselor interview just the other day, and they actually said to me, "Giselle, is it going to be this difficult, or are you just making the worst case scenario?" And I said to them, well, hopefully I'm making the worst case scenario, but I want you to be prepared for the
Yeah.
worst case scenario. And if you call me back after the interview and you say, "Giselle, that was a piece of cake," I've done my job.
Plus, that
Yeah.
preparation gives them confidence because they're prepared for anything. Like when I do marriage interviews, I go through like a Stokes kind of interview with them,
Hmm.
and I tell them
Hmm.
like because I don't take cases that like aren't real or anything like that, or like I prep it, so I make sure they're a real couple that are going to get approved. But preparing for the worst, so when people go there, they're not nervous. They know every type of question that can be answered, and preparation, just like the marathon, you don't just get up and run a marathon. You have to train and train,
Right.
and that training
Yeah.
is the key to life. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight. Uh, okay. So, what other kind of things? Is there anything particular standing out in the case types? Because I don't do perm or H-1B. How are those being handled right now with the administration? I know there's like crazy RFEs people are getting for H-1Bs from what I
Yeah.
hear.
Well, I guess so. Let's put a positive plug in this, and I don't want to, so hopefully I'm touching wood here that this is not going to affect. I'm becoming superstitious
Yeah.
under the new administration. Literally, I sprinkle luck on my cases and light candles and cross my fingers and all this kind of stuff. But all the H-1Bs receipt notices have been issued now, and so they finished the lottery, and I'm thankful that more than 70% of the cases that I filed for were receipted. So I'm not sure how they count those cases. And I talked to someone else that filed, and they said to me the same thing. The ratio was more like 60-70. than the less than 50% that we thought.
Yeah.
But on another another positive note is that the adjudications are coming out, and I've two of my level one cases, so wage level one, which were such a disaster last year because the USCIS decided that a level one wage was not a specialty occupation.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly have reworked our cases and our approach, and super documented. And I know some attorneys don't like to over document, so that that's a whole gamut of discussion,
Yeah,
because
that's
now,
strategy. Yeah,
right, right,
I had a client. I don't do asylum. I'm doing an E2 for a client, and his girlfriend's gonna do asylum, and they're like, that's not. Their attorney said we give the bare minimum, take the rest to the interview if needed or something. But I'm on the side of overwhelm them with evidence from the beginning,
yeah,
kind of, just so you set the tone of how good the case is.
that,
But it's strategy. People leave stuff
yeah.
out of L1s. I strategically sometimes leave out superfluous stuff at L1 so I have something for RFE nowadays, because before, like, it would constantly be okay, no RFEs, but now that there are RFEs, I need to give some info. But that is a whole discussion of of that, how to prep
Right.
it.
But what the posture we took, or the strategy we took, and I explained it to the clients, and they agreed with me to go that route. It was to over document the
Hmm.
cases, and again, that I hear other attorneys saying, well, that also sets a bad precedent because USCIS then expects that that's what you're going to do. But
Yeah.
at this point, I wanted to make sure that they hadn't, just like you said, they knew this was a solid case, and we could even, this are companies that can take them to court
Hmm.
if
Oh,
they mess
nice.
up.
Yeah.
So yeah, oh yeah. So I wanted that out there. But we've been getting. So what I was going with is we have gotten approvals already of those level one
Wonderful.
wage cases. So that's a positive thing that I'm very very thankful.
You know,
Um,
you mentioned the debate of setting the tone for USCIS, what they expect from from applications. Because I do over document. The thing about it is, in the big picture, it's not good to set the tone of all these additional documents that are superfluous, but just do it. But as an attorney, our interest is in that particular client, not a trend or even future clients. It's the person that's signed a contract with you right now, and we have to do whatever we can for that individual, even if it potentially hurts a long-term landscape. And
yeah,
that's one of those things. Like, it's a hard thing because it's, yeah, again, it sets a tone for the future, but at the same time, you got to make sure that one client is approved, because you have that fiduciary relationship with them, and the responsibility towards them. So these are, like, practitioners. These are issues that people in the general world don't think about, but it's like, how do we individually deal with it as a group, and as ALA members, like what is the best thing to do? But I have that debate and that every day. I'm like, am I doing too much?
hmm
Is it gonna,
or
like, yeah,
yeah, or not enough,
yeah,
because you just don't know what not enough is. It's the whatever we did. I look at some of my cases from 3 years ago, even,
yeah,
and I'm going, oh my gosh,
yeah,
this the law hasn't changed, but those cases are probably not going to get approved today without an RFE.
yeah.
And I,
I was looking at an
so
L of mine from a couple years ago, and I was like, "Oh my God! Like, there's
right,
always holes." If
right,
someone brought me this case today, I would be like, "Oh, this is missing all these documents." But part of it is, we meet the regulations, but then they just want more in these RFEs, so we get used to it, and it's not fair. But it's such a vague standard a lot of time. It's so subjective, and it really depends on who the officer is. Because I have
totally.
people who have denied L1s from other firms. They come to me, or they got an initial L1 for somebody. They want to do extension with me, and I'll look at what they did, and I'm like, they're missing like 40% of the case, and it's still approved. And then I have other cases where they have like 150% of what they need, and they still get the RFE or denial. It's just so random and inconsistent, and I'm always thinking about how could we make this more consistent, but it's subjective, because at a certain extent, like, it's a feeling. Is this a real company? Is this a real job? It's hard to draw specific lines, because if we become too rigid, then it takes away the flexibility of those people who are like companies that are maybe startups that don't have like everything, but they're real, and you need some leeway. I'm kind of sided with USIs. It is kind of a hard standard, especially because Congress makes the statute so vague, and then they have to go into rulemaking, and it's so political, and it's just so hard to make a good standard and to practice in this area. But it makes I guess that's what makes immigration hard, but fun for people who like strategic kind of stuff and kind of like a chess game of how do we organize our battle to for success. And I guess that's what the sickness we have to have fun to keep going back to
Yeah.
this kind of.
If there's one, yeah, if there's one thing, so I started my practice as an attorney litigating, and I do not miss litigation. I love, yeah, I love this giving and the opportunity to strategize
Hmm.
and litigation at the end of the day, you win, you lose, money gets exchanged. I- At least in the defense side, you're not necessarily touching people's lives, and
Yeah.
here we are. But I do miss, and I just wish, just going to what you were talking about, if we had the opportunity at least to, for 30 minutes, just explain your case to someone that would be impartial and rational.
Yeah.
Just even sometimes when we go to a USCIS interview, they're not necessarily impartial
Yeah.
but and that's the piece that I wish sometimes we had, because in some of these cases, it's like, my gosh, if
Hmm.
this makes business sense, just get moved on and stop the bureaucracy.
Yeah, having a good interviewer that for USCIS who has experience and like is realistic is so helpful. I've been to an
Right.
interview where the officer was like doing it for like 20, 30 years, the older guy. And we had RFEs from the service, and it was a marriage case about the affidavit of support, this and that. And then when we went there, because I just told the service center, I said, listen, just send it to the district office. We'll talk about it. And the officer just looked at 2 seconds and he's like, like they have a checklist in the service center. They don't deal with people on a day-to-day basis. So they're very rigid and they just RFE on everything. But like, he's like, I know how it works. I've seen, it's more personal aspect, and when they have experience, it just makes life so much better. When you have someone skilled, and because when they see someone in person, it makes it real to them. They're actually going to deny a person rather than just a number, and
Right.
that itself makes them care more because it's more
Yeah.
personal. So. But now they have the employment-based interviews, and that's kind of scary too. I have one tomorrow in Atlanta. It's an
Ooh.
it's an EB1C, and so
Hmm.
the client's going to loan. The case is good. There's portability, which that could be an issue for E1C. But overall, everything is legit. But I'm like, they don't necessarily have as much training in that area as opposed
Right.
to naturalization or marriage and
Right.
stuff. And
Right.
so, I'm holding my breath, and hopefully it comes out good. We just documented the hell out of it, submitted I-45Js multiple times. I have one to the interview, have mailed to the district office, to the service center, everywhere. Just to, I mean, they moved. So just getting the address corrected took, multiple AR-11s, 4 phone calls, 3 letters to the previous field office, 3 letters to the old, just to get the address and the venue changed. And it's like really
I
like it's so difficult.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Yep.
I feel bad because it takes a lot of time for clients to pay for it. It's just like unnecessary fees
Mhm.
for the guy to pay. This is like he has a family, has kids. Like the kids have. I'd rather he spend the money as family than paying me to constantly call USCIS just to change an address. But it is what it is. Immigration is not easy. It takes very courageous people. I know my clients, and the thing that gets you when people talk bad about immigrants is like no one that's lazy or not courageous immigrates. It's
Right.
only the toughest. It's they say
Yeah.
survival of the fittest.
Yes.
Like these are the
Yes.
fittest, the most adaptable people. These are exactly the
Yeah.
kind of people you want. That even the people who come at the border, which it's a
Yeah.
pejorative, like these people run through a human obstacle course in the middle of the desert to get
Right.
here to like go sit in front of Home Depot and do physical labor. Like it's none of the weak people that are not going to be able to do good physical labor. They literally the ones that couldn't make it in a almost
Yeah.
primordial, almost like nature-based fight to exist. They came here to work, physical labor a lot of times. If they're coming through that route, it's like these are good people. These are the hardcore people. Or on the
Yeah.
skill side, somebody who is like an engineer in the home country, they live a comfortable life. They're part of the higher echelon of society, but they said, I want to do something better. I
Right.
have one guy who I'm working on E2 with. I mean, he had a lot of opportunities in the home country, but he wanted to live the American dream. He's trying to develop equipment for space, and so
Wow.
he wants to work with Elon Musk and the stuff like that. And he could have been in his home country making a good life and just living. But he's like, you know what? I gave that all up. He had a deep relationship with somebody who wouldn't be able to immigrate with him. He gave that up because he said, you know what? The American dream is good. He wants to change the future, and so we're gonna be doing through E2 route, and I'm optimistic it's gonna work just because it's real. When the cases are real, there's a confidence you have. You're like, this is not a fake case. It's supposed to work, and
Right.
so that's why I'm really. have consultations, and I spend a lot of time with them to make sure they're doing this for a real reason. It's not just an excuse for a tourist visa to start a business here for E2, for example. They really want to develop something. And that optimism they have, it's good. They say you're supposed to hang out with people that are like on your
Right.
level and bigger. These are like people I like to hang out with.
Yeah.
And so that's why
Yeah.
I'm really strict on who I take on as clients, because we're so much in their lives. And so,
Yeah.
sorry, I went on a rant, but you
No, but
definitely know what I'm talking about.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. In fact, I gave a presentation just yesterday where to some degree I said almost exactly what you said. And I said, in the sense that immigrants come to this country, they're special, unique characters. And they're the most entrepreneurial. They're the ones that open the most business. It's just exactly like you said. And that requires a certain characteristics, and they have to be the fittest. They have to be the ones that are fearless, and and we need that. We need that for our country to move forward. We need that unique talent. We need that diversity. That's what gives us the strength.
Yeah, I mean, every
That's
great country. I mean, when Great Britain was the big empire, they brought people from all over the world
yeah,
there.
yeah,
U.S. rose like that. Like every country that became internationally great, it
right.
came, but people were like, okay, there's opportunity there. I'm gonna like do whatever I can to get there and work within that system, and that's what's happening. And so it's just such an easy scapegoat thing to put on this. Luckily, the economy is somewhat good right now. I think it's artificially boosted, but um,
Mm-hmm.
if it goes down, this immigration issue is
Mm-hmm.
going to really get worse. If it's
Yeah,
if we have low unemployment right now and they're saying they're taking our jobs, oh my God, what's going to happen if the employment rate rises? So,
right.
that's
Yeah.
hopefully,
All good. All good.
yeah,
Well, let's finish on a positive
yeah,
note. To you, I'm saying good luck with tomorrow. Your client will do fine on an L, and
yeah.
on that interview. That it just like you said is it's really if the case is good,
It's prepped.
it
I went through it within the
appears.
document, so I'm really
Yeah.
optimistic. I'm looking forward to getting that approval. I think it's gonna be the first interview post the interview situation we have that's gonna happen. Then all of a sudden, I
Okay.
have two EB1As that are going to be interviewed and that are coming up. They're coming pretty fast, actually. Like
Yeah.
this one took a year, but now my EB1As that are coming, it was the EB1C. They're coming after like 4 or 5 months, and I was surprised how fast they're coming, which I'm happy
I
because
know.
the
On-
work permits aren't coming, and they're here on other status, and I want to get them an
Right.
EAD card. So let's just get
Right.
the green card and go. So uh, there some
Yeah.
aspects are working faster. So if someone wanted to contact you, how could they get to know you more and contact you?
Sure. So I work on Marks Gray, MarksGray, PA. That's our firm. And look me up, Giselle Carson.
Do you have any
And
social media stuff
I'm on
or
LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
wonderful?
And then, yeah, our website. I have a blog and I have a newsletter. And there's links for subscription there.
I have
And
to
we'd
sign
love
up for
to,
those.
yeah.
I'm
Please,
did we not
yeah.
mention? But yeah, I got to sign up. I love
Uh,
reading people's newsletters. And one thing is like I have a newsletter too, and every time I have some sort of success myself, I post it even to my clients. And I like our colleagues. We should all sign up to each other's newsletters to know what's going on in each other's
right,
lives and what kind of
right.
professional success we're having.
Yeah,
Like, because
yeah.
immigration, we all like each other. It's like a cool
Yeah.
aspect of law that we're all friends. So I like
Well, and
seeing like stuff
it's
you're doing.
hard to keep track. I'll certainly add you to our newsletter, John. So don't worry about it.
Thanks.
I have you covered. But yeah, I read my colleagues' immigration newsletters once because some of them practice immigration, but not what I do. So it makes you whole
Yeah.
without having to go digging as to what's happening in asylum today. It gives you the scope of that you have a general sense of what's happening besides what is being portrayed in the media.
Yeah.
And also, you can't follow all. So typically in the newsletters, mine and others, you just cover the most important things, and
Mhm.
it's just a really good quick refresher as to, oh yeah, that's what's going on. So yeah, I have you covered. You'll be on it, and hopefully we'll get to talk again soon, and we can cover maybe some trends
Yeah.
in
Would
all
love that.
adjudications or H-1Bs or something like that.
That'd be
Mhm.
wonderful. Yeah, I look forward to doing this more often. It was a great pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much to you and your listeners.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.